This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're going to look at a Windows 8 tablet running on Ultrabook specs. This is the Acer Iconia W700. It has pretty much everything that Microsoft Surface Pro does, and it's about 2 pounds, so very, very attractive package. Single piece of aluminum here for the entire back. Core i5 processor inside, 128 gig SSD. Comes with a bunch of accessories, and we're going to look at it now. So this is the Acer Iconia W700. Acer just calls it the W7, but when you actually look at the model numbers, they are W700 model numbers, and that's how you find it in stores. And this is a full Windows 8 PC running on an Intel Core i5 ULV 1.7 gigahertz processor. That's the 3317U, same as you'll find in pretty much most any Ultrabook. So this is a powerful product here. As you can see right now, we have it sitting in the really novel stand that Acer includes. This is a bundle package. When you buy it, you don't just get the tablet and then get nickel and dime to death buying accessories. You get this interesting stand/dock that we'll explore more in a minute. This Bluetooth keyboard right here, so no novel touch covers, anything like that, no Transformer style docking together, but actually a very usable keyboard, so that's the nice part for those folks who actually have to type. Now, as a portable product, do you want to be carrying this guy around? Well, that's not so much fun. That's another issue. And lastly, they include a case, which looks like a 70s leisure suit. I have to say, it's vinyl, it's brown, it's uninspired, it smells kind of chemically. It's got a soft touch material on the inside, though. It does the job, and you can see it has some flex here, and it has a little rubber grippy mounting points, so it's effective, even if it's not, shall we say, gorgeous to look at. And the case also has the ridge style propping up thing going on here, so you can prop it up if you want in the case. And you notice there's a hole for a camera back here. Well, that looks kind of funny, isn't it? Because it's actually blocked up. So there's Velcro holding this together. Aha, 2 pieces, there you go. So that's Acer's solution. So from the back side, if you have it on and you take it off, there's what you see. So here we have it partially in the included stand, and you can see right here, here's a USB connector that mates with the single USB 3.0 port that is on the side of the tablet, and this is a little pass-through charging for power. Good idea to have that, of course. And it just slides in pretty easily like that. Switch to desktop mode, I think, because it's touching on the little button down here, the home button. It cycles in between. So now you've got something that props up on the desk. And these little holes here, these are ports for the speakers. The speakers are on the bottom edge, so it actually ports the volume out. That's good, instead of blocking it. There's a lot of intelligence to the design of this dock, but at the same time, it's kind of kludgy and cumbersome. I'll show you what I mean. So as we take a look around this plastic dock right here, you can see how thick it is. And you can see that the micro HDMI port remains exposed. Again, very clever design there. They've cut this down here so that you don't have to worry about that and they don't have to replicate that port. And we've got 3 USB 3.0 ports on the back here, which is pretty darn nice. And there's our pass-through for power. Now, take a look at the back side of this fascinating piece of plastic right here, and you see that this just goes in like so. So, yeah, that's a little bit kind of kludgy, isn't it? But it does work. Not adjustable angle, of course, because it just slides in there, and if you bump it, you can actually accidentally dislodge it, so it's not the most stable thing. You can put it in upside down, backwards like that, so you can use it like that and tilt it up a little bit at you at the desk. That's not a bad thing at all. And then for portrait mode, yeah, you actually can do that. You can slot this guy in. You can drop it in like this for portrait mode use, and then you would have the USB ports down at the bottom because that's the only end that actually holds the tablet, so you can use it like that. So interesting, a lot of good design elements, also a little plasticky, a little less than stable. You don't bang on it, like I said, but hey, it gets the job done, and we liked having the 3 USB ports and all the clever intelligence of leaving ports available and venting out our audio. So like pretty much all Windows 8 tablets, it's a little bit heavy to be used as a, shall we say, leisure tablet, like you'd use an iPad, Android tablet. This guy weighs 2 pounds, 1 ounces. You'll notice the difference between a 1.44 pound iPad and this, or your average 1.3 to 1.4 pound Android tablet. It's also got fairly long aspect ratio right here, full HD display, 1920 by 1080 by the way, very nice. And if we take a look at the bottom here, there's our stereo speakers outlined in zingy red. And they actually make pretty good sound. Dolby Home Theater Audio 4.0, fairly loud for a tablet and pretty full sounding. We'll play that for you so you can hear it. On this side here, 0.47 inches thick, we've got the Iconia label on here, barcode sticker. There's our combo headphone jack, volume controls, power button. Since this is a Core i5 CPU, it needs to have fans and vents. So here we go. That's what these are up here. Generally speaking, if you're just doing productivity work, working with Office, browsing the web, that kind of thing, it's going to stay pretty quiet. You'll hear just a little bit of a whir of the fan, just hardly anything at all though. Screen rotation lock up here. Single USB 3.0 port there, your micro HDMI, and that's where the power gets plugged in. Take a look at the back. Single piece of carved aluminum. Little plastic strip up here is where the wireless antennas are, and yeah, that aluminum just wraps around the edges. So taking this apart, generally these are not hugely upgradable. You might be able to swap out the SSD as an mSATA SSD in there, that kind of thing, but probably in this case is going to involve popping the display out. So I would call this something that you're just not going to be taking apart and messing with yourself. That said, it comes with 40 gigs of DDR3 RAM, and you can get it with a 64 or 128 gig SSD. We have the 128 gig model. That's the one I recommend because your recovery partition takes up space, Windows takes up space, so do your applications, and 64 is just really a little too tight. This has an 11.6 inch IPS display with 350 nits of brightness. Yep, it's bright, it looks good. Turn off Windows Auto Brightness if it seems dull to you. That Windows 8 Auto Brightness feature only seems to work in very bright lighting situations, not your average indoor lighting situation. So we've got full 1080p going on here. We've got a fast Core i5. We have something that basically competes with MS Surface Pro right here, and for about the same price. So it's honestly going to be a matter of if you want a larger display. 11.6 inches, a little bit, feels a little bit more computery, a little bit more space to look at. Of course, a little bit bigger to carry. However, Surface comes out to about here. And other than that, it's about the same thickness. They both have fans, they both make some noise, they both get warm. Though this guy, even when we're doing things like playing 1080p video, does not really get too hot despite the metal back, so that's pretty nice. One thing that you don't get with this is a digital pen. You can use a capacitive stylus if you want. Those are not very precise, you know. They're pretty annoying actually to try to use. So this has 10 points of capacitive multi-touch, no digital pen. So graphic artists, this is not for you. Note takers, mathematicians, science types who need to write equations, not the tablet for you. The tablet has a fairly capable webcam up front here, 720p, and it's got microphone built in. Actually, it takes reasonably sharp and bright video for video chat. The 5 megapixel camera on the back, which has a privacy light, by the way, so if you're using it to record or take photos, takes mediocre pictures. Not really hugely impressed with that. Since this runs full Windows 8 64-bit, you can put Windows desktop applications on here, Windows 7 applications, and of course all the stuff that's available in the Windows Store and everything that's built in here. So your Xbox Live video and music players are on board, 2 versions of IE, the full screen one here, and also the one that runs in standard IE mode on the desktop. All of your news stuff. You can download games. In fact, we've got Pinball FX downloaded. We'll show you how that plays. But being a Core i5, you could even push this to play something more challenging. So if you wanted to play something like Left 4 Dead 2 on this, you actually could. Now, not Crysis 2. This is still basically an Ultrabook in terms of its brain power. So we're not talking about a gaming machine here by any means. On PC Mark 7, it scores 4397, which is pretty close to ballpark for an Ultrabook with a Core i5 CPU. A little bit lower by about 100, 150 points, but that's not uncommon with tablets because they just have not much space to do cooling here, quieter, smaller fans, so they can't push the thermal envelope quite as much. You get Intel HD 4000 graphics in here. Again, that's standard for Ultrabooks. You also get that on Surface Pro. And Samsung Active 700T, which also competes with this, also running on a Core i5 CPU. Now, the Active comes with a digital pen and a transformer-style keyboard for a different kind of package. In terms of desktop Windows Experience Index scoring, here are the maximum of 9.9 possible. Again, in PC Mark 7, we told you we scored a 4397 there. Well, here for processor, we've got 6.9. Memory, 5.9. Not the fastest I've seen for memory, but hey. For our desktop graphics, 5.4. For 3D graphics, 6.3. And primary hard disk, which is the SSD drive, 8.1, because, well, it is pretty darn fast, SSD drive. The full HD IPS display is beautiful. You're not going to really notice the difference so much here in the live tile interface. Microsoft optimizes that well to work at either 1366 by 768 or full HD, and they both look just about as good. Now, if you're using the web browser and you're looking really close at fonts, you'll notice that there are no jaggies to be seen. Desktop mode, Acer just leaves it as it is and they don't do any scaling. They leave it at 100%. That means that you're looking at icons that are about the size of your pinky nail, very small. So we moved it up to 125% scaling. Now, one thing that happens when you do scaling is sometimes images can look like icons and that kind of thing can look a little bit fuzzy. Photos, that's fine. It's not going to mess with photos. But it does make text more readable. So that's the double-edged sword. Everybody wants a full HD display on one of these small screen tablets, but at the same time, readability suffers, and you may end up doing some scaling and losing a little of your sharpness by doing that. We've got real full IE here on the desktop. Works just fine with touch. Also works fine with a mouse and the keyboard if you want to plug those in. You can use the on-screen keyboard when you don't have the Bluetooth keyboard plugged in, and we'll check out our own website and some YouTube video playback to see how that goes. So here we are in desktop mode IE on our site with Adobe Flash. Of course, this is a regular PC, so you can install Silverlight, you can install QuickTime, you can do whatever you want. iTunes, yes, you can put that on here. Photoshop runs just fine on this. So, a capable PC, but you can see that the text is nice and sharp, even at 125% scaling. And even if you make it that big, it still looks really good. So, nice display here. And in terms of YouTube playback, where we're going to look at our Dell XPX Full HD video review and see how YouTube looks on it. This will be using Adobe Flash. We don't have to do the HTML style. You can hear how loud those speakers are. We're at about 64% volume right now. I'll move up to 720p and go full screen. This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're looking at the Dell XPS Full HD, or FHD. Looks great at 720. Much like the XPS. Let's move up to 1080p. Full HD 1080p IPS display. Good looking. Backlit. Looks great. Works great. Good times. Of course, one thing about playing this on a small screen with this resolution, you can see how absolutely tiny the little controls here are for Flash Player. So keep that in mind. And now to show you the difference in the experience, this is using IE in the Metro interface or Live Tile interface, which runs in full screen mode and makes the fonts bigger. So you're going to see less on screen right here because it's doing a whole lot of scaling to make things really big and readable for you. Still looks nice and sharp even when we zoom out that big. Very nice. No staircasing on the fonts whatsoever. So good looking. Now for video playback, it certainly makes sense to play 1080p content on this given the fact that it is a 1080p display. You don't have to use the HDMI out to do that. So we're going to take a look at an MPEG-4 trailer, high quality. This one actually has 5-channel audio. Obviously we're just going to be outputting 2-channel. Again, listen to those speakers, like wow.
Nothing happened the way it was supposed to happen.
Not just that it's loud, but it's pretty full and it's pretty rich. And it's playing just fine. And now for music playback, we're going to play Johnny Cash because he has nice deep voice and clear guitar. Kind of really sounds like actual music, doesn't it? Instead of that tinny hissy stuff. Sounds great. And of course it does have audio out jack and it has Bluetooth 4.0, so you can use Bluetooth speakers if you want or Bluetooth stereo headphones. So a lot of options there for your multimedia. And certainly, given the fact it's a full Core i5, it's capable of handling pretty much anything you throw at it in terms of multimedia, including easier things like Amazon Prime Video, Netflix. It's all good. For Wi-Fi, we have dual-band Atheros Wi-Fi. Nothing wrong with Atheros Wi-Fi, but you won't get WiDi right now. WiDi is an Intel standard, so you need Intel for that. Same thing is true of Surface. Surface does not use Intel Wi-Fi either, so there is no WiDi wireless display for those of you who care about that. This guy does not have a GPS. It does not have NFC. I don't think anybody's going to be weeping about the NFC thing. The GPS, you might be. There's no 3G option for this guy or 4G option in the United States or overseas, as far as I know. For that matter, I don't know if one ever will come. Since This is treated more like an Ultrabook, is less likely since mobile OS tablets often see the 3G more so than Ultrabooks do. Now let's take a look at the bundled keyboard a little bit more closely. Nice keyboard, good key travel on this. More than you would get on an Ultrabook by a little bit, in fact. A little bit of a curve there makes it ergonomic for typing, pretty much straightforward. Otherwise, you've got battery indicator, you've got your Bluetooth on indicator, on-off switch right here. Standard keyboard layout. And on the back side, here's where our two AAA batteries go. And there's a connect button for when you want to pair this up with the tablet or with any other device if you want. We've got some rubber anti-skid feet here. So it works pretty well. Again, you know, if you're going to be carrying this around a lot, I don't know, it's not so exciting to be carrying around a little Bluetooth keyboard or not so little Bluetooth keyboard, but it does allow you to have a really good typing experience and to set the tablet up wherever you want, and you can just put the keyboard in your lap, which solves the dilemma of Windows 8 full-size Core iMachine not being the most laptop-friendly kind of devices. Obviously, you're going to need to keep it in a stand of some sort or prop it up on your desk, and, well, if you're going to type, say, sitting on the couch or something like that, this works just fine. Now let's do some size comparisons. First, we're going to use the full-size iPad. Not that I think that these products compete. I mean, again, you're looking at something that's basically an Ultrabook here versus a mobile OS tablet, but everybody knows the size of an iPad, so it is useful to see. Since the iPad has a different aspect ratio, you can see how much longer the Acer is. We've got them lined up edge to edge. Of course, the iPad's going to be a little bit thinner as well, but that's the difference in size. And now I have the HP Envy X2 in front of it, exactly the same footprint, but the HP Envy X2 only weighs 1.5 pounds and is considerably thinner as well. You can see this is about the thickest point in the device right here. It's quite thinner on the edges. Now that gets into who are these products for. The Envy X2 runs on an Intel Atom CPU with 2 gigs of RAM and a 64 gig flash drive inside. Runs for a long time. Just tablet alone runs for about 7.5 hours on a charge to 8 hours. And docked, it runs for about 11.5 hours. So this guy is a great kind of tweener product. If you're looking for something that's going to replace, say, your Android tablet, maybe even your iPad, depending on your preferences, and can do light duty as a notebook, since this has a keyboard dock, then this is a great solution. But if you really need a whole lot more power than the Intel Atom offers, since it's not the sharpest product on the block, well, then you're back to looking at the Acer. And speaking of battery life, well, most of these Windows 8 full Core i tablets have pretty abysmal battery life. It's like Surface is at about 4.5 hours, for example. Samsung W700T is a little bit better at around 5 to 5.5. This guy so far is the Energizer Bunny. Runs around 6.5 to 7 hours if you got brightness at about 50%. Now it's a pretty bright display, so 50% I think is perfectly adequate for brightness. So that's a real strong point here for the Acer W700. And lastly, size-wise, we're going to compare it with Surface as far as traditional tablets go. So you can see it's a little bit bigger than Surface. Not a huge amount, though, and they weigh about the same, the Surface Pro and the Acer W700. And lastly, just to bake your noodle a little bit, if you're open to various possibilities, this is also made by Acer. This is 11.6 inches, the footprint is a little teeny bit smaller, and this is the Acer Aspire S7, the 11.6-inch version of their touchscreen 1080p Ultrabook. This sells for $11.99. So a little bit more money, but not a whole lot. And you can see you get a normal laptop configuration here for those of you who don't want to separate the two parts. And this is a full 1080p touchscreen as well. Also Core i5 CPU, also around 2 pounds. So it's nice to have all these options, isn't it? Another neat product from Acer. Now, I know I've just thrown a whole lot of comparisons out there that may have confused you more than helped you, but I can tell you one thing. We will be doing a smackdown between this and the Surface Pro because, honestly, there's so much overlap in their functionality there, it could be kind of hard to decide which you want. So that's the Acer Iconia W700. It's available now as configured the way we looked at it here. It's $9.99, so really not a bad buy and a pretty capable product. The stand is certainly an interesting device. It works well. It's kind of kludgy at the same time, but hey. And you do have freedom of choosing your keyboard, and you get a nice Bluetooth keyboard with it too. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Visit our website for the full review, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.